Hey, what are you doing?
Whoa, easy. I work here.
Show me some ID.
11 years. For 1,015 days. That's how long Marcus Webb had been wearing the badge. He'd started as a patrol officer right out of the academy. Worked his way up. Made detective in 7 years, faster than most. Closed 43 major cases. Testified in 17 trials. Received 3 commendations for valor. He knew every officer in the building. He knew their kids' names. He knew who took coffee black and who needed 3 sugars. He knew the code to the evidence room. He knew the Wi-Fi password. He knew which vending machine always got stuck on B7. He'd bled on those streets. He'd saved lives in those neighborhoods. He'd earned that badge 1,000 times over. And on a Tuesday afternoon in October, none of it mattered. Because when Officer Ryan Foster saw a black man in civilian clothes approaching the police station entrance, he didn't see 11 years of service. He didn't see 43 closed cases. He didn't see a decorated detective. He saw a threat. And in the 180 seconds that followed, every assumption Ryan Foster made would be wrong. Every decision he made would be captured on camera. And every word he said would become evidence in a lawsuit that would cost the department $3.2 million and expose a problem they'd been ignoring for decades. This is what happened when 11 years of service meant nothing against the color of skin. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please subscribe. These stories need to be heard. Marcus Webb was 34 years old, 6 feet tall, criminal justice degree, top of his police academy class. More importantly, he was good at his job. His clearance rate for homicide cases was 89%. Almost double the national average. Defense attorneys hated facing him because his case files were always airtight. He'd made detective first grade 3 years ago, youngest in the department. Salary, $98,000. He drove a paid-off Honda Accord. Lived modestly. Sent money to his mother every month. That Tuesday was his day off after working 14 straight days on the Henderson triple homicide. Around 2:30 p.m., his partner texted asking him to sign court documents at the station before 5 p.m. Marcus threw on jeans, a gray hoodie, and Jordans. He clipped his detective badge to his belt, holstered his service weapon, and hung his department ID around his neck under his hoodie. Standard off-duty carry. He drove to the station, parked in the employee lot where he'd parked thousands of times, and walked toward the entrance. The time was 2:43 p.m. The next 3 minutes would change everything. Officer Ryan Foster had been on the force for 3 years. He worked patrol in the South District. He'd never worked with Marcus. Never met him. Never seen him around the station. Ryan was sitting in his patrol car in the parking lot, finishing paperwork, when he saw a black man in a hoodie walking across the lot toward the station entrance. Something about the sight triggered Ryan's instincts. A black man in casual clothes, hoodie up, hands in pockets, walking with purpose toward a police station. Ryan watched him for 15 seconds. Then he got out of his car. Marcus was about 30 feet from the entrance when he heard a voice behind him. "Hey, stop right there." Marcus turned around. A uniformed officer was walking toward him, hand resting on his belt near his weapon. Marcus immediately recognized the posture. Cautious approach. Tactical positioning. This officer thought he was dealing with a potential threat. "Can I help you, officer?" Marcus asked, keeping his hands visible. "What's your business here?" Ryan demanded. "I work here," Marcus said calmly. "I'm a detective. I'm just coming in to sign some paperwork." Ryan looked him up and down. Jeans, hoodie, sneakers. No visible badge. No visible ID. "You work here?" Ryan's tone was skeptical. "Yes, Detective Marcus Webb, Major Crimes Division. My badge is on my belt." Marcus slowly lifted the front of his hoodie to reveal the gold detective badge clipped to his belt. Right next to it was his holstered service weapon. The moment Ryan saw the weapon, everything escalated. "Don't move." Ryan's hand went to his gun. "You're carrying a weapon." "I'm a detective," Marcus repeated, keeping his voice calm despite his rising heartbeat. That's my service weapon. My badge is right there. Put your hands behind your head. Now. Marcus complied. He knew the protocol. He knew how quickly these situations could go wrong. He'd been on the other side of enough confrontations to know that arguing would only make things worse. Ryan called for backup. I need assistance in the employee parking lot. Subject with a weapon. Within 90 seconds, 2 more patrol officers arrived. Jake Morrison and Tom Bradley, both with less than 5 years on the force. Neither recognized Marcus either. Do you think this would have happened if Marcus was white? Type your answer in the comments. I'm Detective Marcus Webb, Marcus said clearly as the backup officers approached. Badge number 4729. I work in major crimes on the 6th floor. My captain is Linda Ramirez. My partner is Sarah Chin. I've been on the force for 11 years. Ryan wasn't listening. He was focused on the weapon. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Officer, I'm telling you, I'm a detective. My ID is around my neck under my hoodie. My badge is on my belt. You can verify everything right now. Turn around. Marcus turned around. He felt the cold metal of handcuffs click around his wrists. Behind his back. Like a criminal. In 11 years of service, Marcus had never been handcuffed. He'd put cuffs on hundreds of suspects. He'd testified about proper arrest procedures in court. He'd trained younger officers on de-escalation techniques. Now he was the one in cuffs, in the parking lot of his own station, surrounded by 3 officers who should have been his colleagues. Check my ID, Marcus said, keeping his voice level. It's around my neck. Check my badge. Check my weapon registration. Everything will confirm I'm telling the truth. Ryan pulled Marcus's ID lanyard out from under his hoodie. Looked at it. His face went pale. The ID clearly showed Detective Marcus Webb badge 4729, Major Crimes Division. Ryan looked at the badge on Marcus's belt. Legitimate detective shield. He looked at the holstered weapon. Standard issue Glock 17, identical to his own. Everything Marcus had said was true. Why didn't you identify yourself immediately? Ryan asked, but his voice had lost its aggressive edge. I did, Marcus replied. Multiple times. You didn't listen. Jake Morrison leaned in to look at the ID. Oh shit, he muttered. Tom Bradley recognized the name. Wait, Marcus Webb? You're the guy who closed the Henderson case. That's me, Marcus said dryly. Now can someone take these cuffs off? While this was happening, Officer Sarah Mitchell was at her desk on the 2nd floor. She happened to glance out the window and saw the commotion in the parking lot. She saw Marcus in handcuffs. She grabbed her phone and started recording. She also did something else. She called Captain Ramirez. Captain, you need to come to the west window right now. They're handcuffing Marcus in the parking lot. Captain Linda Ramirez had been in her office reviewing case files. What did you just say? Marcus Webb. He's in handcuffs. In our parking lot. Linda ran to the window. What she saw made her blood boil. One of her best detectives, a man with an exemplary record, a man she'd worked with for 6 years, was being treated like a criminal by officers from his own department. She didn't walk to the parking lot. She ran. By the time she burst through the main entrance, a small crowd had gathered. Other officers coming on or off shift had noticed the scene. Some recognized Marcus. Their expressions ranged from confusion to anger. What the hell is going on here? Captain Ramirez's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Ryan Foster turned, still holding his position near Marcus. Captain, we detained this individual who was armed and... That's Detective Webb, you idiot. Linda's voice was sharp enough to make Ryan flinch. Take those cuffs off him right now. The handcuffs came off. Marcus rubbed his wrists where the metal had pressed into his skin. He remained silent, but his expression said everything. Detective Webb, I apologize, Linda said, though her apology felt insufficient given what had just happened. With all due respect, Captain, I don't need an apology from you, Marcus replied. I need an explanation for why 3 officers from my own department handcuffed me in our parking lot after I identified myself multiple times. Ryan started to speak. "We were just following procedure?" Marcus cut him off. "What procedure says to ignore a detective's badge? Ignore his ID, ignore his verbal identification, and handcuff him anyway?" Ryan had no answer. Here's what made this situation different from countless similar incidents. Ryan Foster's body camera had been recording the entire encounter. The footage was crystal clear. It showed Marcus calmly identifying himself at 2:44 p.m. Marcus showing his badge at 2:44 and 23 seconds p.m. Ryan escalating despite seeing the badge at 2:44 and 35 seconds p.m. Marcus being handcuffed at 2:45 and 41 seconds p.m. The ID being checked at 2:46 and 15 seconds p.m. The realization at 2:46 and 22 seconds p.m. Total time in handcuffs, 189 seconds. The audio was even more damning. You could hear Marcus calmly stating his name, badge number, and position. You could hear Ryan refusing to listen. You could hear the assumption in Ryan's voice that a black man in a hoodie couldn't possibly be a detective. The footage also showed something else. Jake Morrison's body camera had captured other officers' reactions. Several were shaking their heads in disbelief. 2 pulled out their phones to record. One said clearly, "That's Marcus Webb from Major Crimes. What are they doing?" This wasn't just one bad officer making a mistake. This was multiple officers failing to recognize their own colleague because he was black and in civilian clothes. If you believe body cameras are essential for accountability, type yes in the comments. Marcus didn't go into the station. He got in his car and drove home. He sat in his apartment for 3 hours processing what had happened. 11 years dedicated to this job. He'd been shot at twice, stabbed once. He'd missed family events because of this work. And his own department didn't recognize him. Around 6 p.m., Captain Ramirez called. "Marcus, we need to talk about what happened." "What's there to talk about, Captain?" "I got handcuffed in my own parking lot. Officer Foster is being reprimanded. Internal Affairs is reviewing it." "Internal Affairs?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "Captain, I've been investigating bias in this department for 5 years. Nothing changes because IA always finds justification. This is different, Marcus." "How? Because it happened to me? Because there's body cam footage? Or because you're embarrassed it happened where everyone could see?" Linda didn't have a good answer. That night, Marcus did something he'd never done before. He called a lawyer. Sarah Mitchell, the officer who had recorded the incident from the window, did something that would change everything. She sent the video to her friend who worked at a local news station. By Wednesday morning, the story was everywhere. Off-duty black detective handcuffed by his own department. The local news ran it as their lead story. By noon, national outlets had picked it up. By evening, it was trending on social media. The department tried damage control. They released a statement saying the officers had followed procedure, that there was a misunderstanding, that the matter was being reviewed internally. The body cam footage leaked on Thursday. Someone in the department, no one ever found out who, sent the full footage to multiple news organizations. And once it was out there, there was no taking it back. The public reaction was immediate and fierce. How could 3 officers fail to recognize their colleague? How could they handcuff him after he showed his badge? How could the department call this following procedure? Civil rights organizations issued statements. The police union was silent. The mayor called for an investigation. By Friday, 72 hours after the incident, the story had gone viral. The hashtag #BadgeNotEnough was trending. The department was in full crisis mode. And Marcus Webb hadn't returned to work. The department was forced to conduct a real investigation. Too many people had seen it. Too much footage existed. Too much public pressure. The investigation revealed this wasn't isolated. Marcus's case prompted other black officers to come forward. 12 officers reported being stopped or questioned by colleagues while off-duty. All were black or Hispanic. No white officers reported similar experiences. Ryan Foster's history emerged. In 3 years, he'd filed 47 suspicious person reports. 44 involved black or Hispanic individuals. His body cam showed consistent patterns of assuming criminality based on appearance. Worse, his supervisors had seen this pattern in quarterly reviews. They'd noted the disparity. They'd done nothing. The investigation expanded to include departmental policies, training, and supervision. What they found was institutional failure at every level. Marcus hired Catherine Rodriguez, a civil rights attorney with a track record of wins. She reviewed the evidence and told Marcus he had one of the strongest cases she'd ever seen. The lawsuit was filed 30 days later, naming Officer Foster, Officers Morrison and Bradley, their supervisors, and the department. Alleged violations: civil rights, racial profiling, unlawful detention, failure to train and supervise, emotional distress. Damages sought: $5 million. The department tried settling quietly, $250,000 if Marcus signed an NDA. He refused. $500,000. Refused. $1 million. Refused. "This isn't about the money," Marcus told his attorney. "This is about accountability. If they can do this to me and get away with it by writing a check, what message does that send?" The case went to trial. Would you have taken the settlement or gone to trial? Let me know in the comments. The trial lasted 9 days. The jury watched the body cam footage 4 times. They heard testimony from Marcus, from Ryan Foster, from the other officers, from Captain Ramirez, and from experts on police bias and training. The most powerful testimony came from Marcus himself. He spent 6 hours on the stand, describing his career, his dedication, and what it felt like to be handcuffed by his own department. "I've arrested murderers," he told the jury. "I've testified against gang members who threatened my life. I've done everything this department asked of me for 11 years. And in 189 seconds, 3 officers made me feel like none of that mattered. Like I was just another black man in a hoodie who didn't belong there." Ryan Foster's testimony was a disaster. Under cross-examination, he admitted he hadn't actually looked at Marcus's badge carefully. He admitted he'd assumed someone in casual clothes couldn't be a detective. He admitted he'd made those assumptions based partly on Marcus's appearance. The defense tried to argue that the officers were just being cautious, that officer safety required them to treat armed individuals with suspicion regardless of identification. Catherine Rodriguez destroyed that argument by showing footage of white off-duty officers being greeted casually when they arrived at the station in civilian clothes while carrying weapons. The double standard was undeniable. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. The verdict: guilty on all counts. The damages: $3.2 million. Ryan Foster was terminated immediately. His union appeal was denied. He'd never work law enforcement again. Morrison and Bradley received 30-day suspensions without pay and 200 hours of bias training. The supervising sergeant was demoted and transferred to a desk position. But consequences went deeper. The department implemented comprehensive reforms: mandatory quarterly bias training for all officers, monthly review of stop patterns to identify disparate treatment, visible ID badge requirement for all off-duty officers, independent civilian oversight board with disciplinary authority, anonymous reporting system for officer bias complaints. The settlement included $500,000 for community police relations programs. Marcus returned to work 6 months later. He transferred divisions and took a position training new detectives. He uses his experience as a teaching tool. Every new detective now hears Marcus's story and watches the body cam footage. "I want every new officer to understand something," Marcus tells them. "The badge doesn't protect you from bias, not even if you're wearing it. Especially if you don't fit people's expectations. The department is different now. Not perfect, institutional change takes time, but different. Black and Hispanic officers report feeling more secure. Complaint patterns show more equitable treatment. Ryan Foster works in private security now, making a fraction of his former salary. The internet ensures employers can always find his story. 11 years of service. 43 closed cases. 3 commendations, 189 seconds in handcuffs. Those numbers tell a story about how quickly years of work can be dismissed when assumptions override evidence. Marcus did everything right. He earned his position. He proved his worth. He identified himself clearly. And it still wasn't enough. The body camera footage is now used in police academies nationwide as a training example of implicit bias in action. It shows how quickly situations escalate when officers don't question their assumptions. But it also shows what happens when someone has the courage to fight back. When someone refuses to let injustice be swept under the rug. Marcus could have taken the settlement and stayed quiet. Many do, but he chose to make noise. To force the system to acknowledge what happened. To create change. $3.2 million sent a message. The badge you earn doesn't stop mattering because some officers can't see past skin color. 11 years meant Marcus knew his rights, knew the system, knew how to fight it when it failed him. The parking lot looks the same. Officers still park there. Still walk to the entrance. But now they know the story. They've seen the footage. They know assumptions have consequences. And every black officer in civilian clothes knows Marcus fought for them. Made sure it mattered. 189 seconds changed one man's career. The fight that followed changed a department. Sometimes justice takes 11 years to earn and 189 seconds to nearly lose. But when you fight back, those seconds can spark change that lasts far longer than any arrest record. If the story matters to you, hit that subscribe button. These stories need to be told. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. Justice doesn't sleep, and neither do we.